I think art in general and literature is one way to make history or very extreme events much more approachable to the audience and also understandable. I mean, there are not too many readers who are eagerly waiting to read a 1,000-page volume of Estonian history, for example. And of course, we authors do need, archive material and all kind of background studies. But still, if you tell the story through an individual, a character, then it's always much more approachable to a reader. And you cannot relate with numbers or facts, actually. I mean, they are not even meant to be like that. I mean, serious study needs to be objective and you cannot be too emotional with that. I think all the countries and all the nations have untold stories because history is always written by winners. The one who wins the war is the one who can write the history. So actually the official truth in every country or even about the national identity is written and formed by someone who has been on the winner's side. In that way, every country has that kind of stories. But of course, in Baltic states, they were occupied 2 times by Soviet power, which meant that the Soviet Union was the one who was ruling the history writing. Because they needed to justify the occupation, they also needed to make all the things before Soviet Union very bad. Actually, Soviet Union and KGB they were very detailed and elaborated with history writing. For example, you needed to use certain kind of adjective with, for example, anything related to the Republic of Estonia and anything that was related to nationality actually at all. So they studied the words very carefully, and that is interesting as well because they were actually they were really skillful. In my 2 first novels related to Estonia, Stalin's Cows and Perch, the main focus was on female characters and also those untold histories of those women, but then the latest one, when the doves disappeared, the focus is on the male character. And on the other hand, I mean now when Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore, so actually he is representing a loser again. But at that time he was writing the history for KGB and with the KGB rules and guidebooks and writing the history of Estonia. And so actually he was the one who was holding the power in his hand at that time. But now from our perspective he was the loser, and what fascinates me in that kind of character is, I mean, as a writing person, when I was writing the story, I was wondering what kind of author would I have been, in that kind of nation, in that kind of country. And that's a good question, and I cannot give an answer because I don't know actually, because if you follow your heart and write what you really want, and that wouldn't have been possible at that time unless you would have jeopardized your family, your friends, or then you should have thought about leaving the country somehow, and that wasn't really a possibility actually, so that was very dangerous. So it was really, or would I have wanted to be a celebrated author, and that would have meant that I should have followed the rules and values of Soviet Union and say that Stalin or Lenin or whoever, that they were great men. That's what I should, if I would have wanted to be published, then that's the thing I should have done. And it's very difficult to say what kind of choices you would have made actually. It's very easy to say that of course I wouldn't be like that, but how do I know actually? And that kind of system is very talented in creating horror and terror and make people fear, and in a system where everything is somehow related to the party and correct opinions, and everything, like, you know, if you want your children to go to the university, that is dependent on what are your political opinions, for example. And also the everyday life was so difficult, so if you wanted to have a car or an apartment, then again, if you don't want to be 10 years in a queue, then you have to absolutely have the right opinions. And that wasn't that long ago, when it was very close history to us in Finland actually as well. During the Finlandization, if you had correct political opinions, you might have had the possibility for a better career. But of course, I mean, now it's not a problem that has disappeared from the world. So there are many countries still fighting with these kind of, and many authors fighting with these kind of problems. People are never black and white, actually, and it's impossible to understand the history of thinking black and white. And humanity is not black and white either. Ukraine is on the same way. So actually, you know, collapse of a huge totalitarian state didn't actually mean that that part of the Europe is absolutely going to take the democratic path, even though, in a way, from Nordic point of view, you are thinking that absolutely everybody wants to become a democratic state, and that's the best place for people to live, but it's just not the way it happens. I think if you write tempting story or a page turner, then you can get people who wouldn't be interested in those kind of things. You can get them read the book. I'm not expecting, for example, all Danish people to be interested in Estonian history, or people in other countries. So, but if the book is interesting enough, then you'll learn something about Estonia on the way as well, and about the Second World War as well. So, and especially with countries so small as Estonia and other Baltic states, then they don't have Hollywood to tell their stories. They don't have millions of euros to put in TV productions, for example. Nor do they have a huge budget for their media like Russia has. So actually, you know, the most powerful tools at the moment are, well, anyway, you know, TV productions, movies. I mean, those are, again, make difficult things approachable to people. I mean, and they have movies have helped a lot. For example, people to understand Holocaust. But small nations don't have that kind of channels at all. I don't want to define myself as a voice author is enough, but I mean, authors and artists in general, we can talk about many things politicians just don't. They cannot, they won't, they don't. Perhaps they could, but they still won't. For example, now the events in Russia related to the gay rights. Our Minister of Culture in Finland was waving a rainbow flag actually in Moscow, and it was considered like a very bad thing for him to do, even though I think that was exactly the thing you have to do. I mean, because as a free democratic state we have, I think it's our obligation to defend certain rights. That is human rights, and gay rights are human rights. And also now actually our Olympic Committee announced that Finnish sportsmen and women are forbidden to have rainbow nail polish. Can you imagine? Which is, I think, nail polish, the color of your nail polish is a personal matter, so but it's not anymore. sportsmen and women, they could be, you know, for example, speaking out. Well, and some of them do with nail polish, for example, but they are forbidden, and they are depending on the sponsors. And of course, they want to go to, you know, Olympics. Who wouldn't? If you are very good or talented, but authors get their living actually from, well, grants, funds, which shouldn't have, and those shouldn't be, you know, involved with. Like, I mean, I cannot imagine in Nordic country a cultural fund, you know, not giving an author a grant if you are wearing a rainbow nail polish, for example. That wouldn't happen. And then the then also quite many authors, I mean, we get our living from readers. I mean, readers are buying books. That means that actually we have the freedom that quite many people do not have. So I think that means that we are also obliged to defend certain rights.